I participated in my first powerlifting meet. A powerlifting meet is a competition where you try to lift your heaviest weight for back squat, bench press, and deadlift. And each competitor gets 3 attempts at each of the lifts. Now, why did I decide to do this? I've been lifting with barbells for over 10 years, and I never felt the need to do a competition because I lift for enjoyment and for my health. And I decided to commit to this competition this year for the experience of training for something and to see where this training would take me. I also liked the idea of having a specific purpose for my workouts so that it's not just workout just to be healthy, but there's actual training for a specific end goal. And the end goal for a powerlifting meet is to take your months of training and give it your one best shot, or actually 3 best shots, to get your heaviest lift for these 3 particular lifts, which again is a back squat, a bench press, and a deadlift. And this was my experience over the 12 weeks. I started the 12-week lifting program based on what's called the 1 rep max. Um, I have an idea of how heavy I can go. And on a particular day, a bunch of us at the gym, we tested our 1 rep max. So essentially, it was called a mock meet, which is like a practice competition. 1 rep max means using all of your strength, giving every ounce of energy you've got. What's the heaviest you could do on that particular lift? So, for example, for a back squat, how heavy can I go for just 1 rep? And that is a marker of strength. Just knowing, well, at this point in time, this is the heaviest 1 rep that I can do for this particular lift. And for example, to mark progress, if today all I could muster was 100 pounds on a bench press, just one bench press, 1 rep, and then 3 months from now, if I test it again and I can actually do 120 pounds, that number shows me how much stronger I've got over the 3 months. Now, when all of us decided to do this, my other teammates at the gym, we were very excited during their first month of training because you knew you're at the start of this journey, and it's very exciting thinking, wow, in 3 months we're going to be in this competition and we're going to be stronger than we were when we started. And it's very exciting to feel that your time will be allotted to doing something with a specific purpose. And all of us, including myself, allotted times in our schedule to make sure we got our lifting sessions in. So no matter what happened during that week, I wanted to stay on the program. And because of the time we were required to stay on our lifting program, other types of activities or workouts were set aside. And what I enjoyed about this, the first couple weeks or the first month of the 3 months of training, is that it gave a purpose for when you went to the gym. For example, this is just a random sample schedule of what it'd be like on Mondays. I would go do my bench press lifts, which sounds like a lot of things, but I would probably be in the gym for a little over an hour to stretch and warm up, and then to do my warm up sets, and then to actually do the bench press work that was part of my program. So maybe at the end of the day, I did 20 reps, not including, warming up and getting my body mobile for the bench press. So it sounds like you're not doing a lot, but that took about an hour and a half to get that work done. And then maybe on Tuesday, I would follow the same procedure, but for my back squats and possibly also bench again. So it would take almost 2 hours. Then on a Thursday, following the same idea for getting the joints mobile, doing warm-up sets until I got to what they called the working set, which is the actual work I wanted to do on that day for deadlifts. And then maybe Saturday again, I would squat again. So there would be some weeks where I would be doing heavy squats twice a week, heavy bench press, and then deadlifts once a week. And this is how, when all of us who are competing would have a lot of our weeks spent trying to make sure all the work got done. Now, in this process, what happens is somebody or something inevitably goes off plan. And for me, in the middle of the 12 weeks, so about during the second month of the 3 months of work, I had chosen to take an Olympic snatch workshop, which is a different type of barbell work. And decided to do this because I figured, well, this workshop might not come up very often, and I'm not sure when the next time it will. It might be months from now. And this workshop I signed up for was 4 weeks long. It was just on Saturdays. But doing this one thing not related to my powerlifting work was not a great idea in hindsight. What happened after these four different Saturdays doing this workshop is that my shoulders were wrecked and it would hurt. I think it was probably rotator cuff issues from doing something very new and very different. And this happens sometimes when you're on a training program, something might happen which throws you off course. I know someone else who was also training on our team for the meet had injured his one of his glute muscles was acting up, and he had to take some time off. And there was another person on our team who started getting shoulder pain, who also had to pull back a little bit. So the lesson in terms of getting distracted from the ultimate goal is that when you're training for a goal like this, less is better. As in, just stick with the focus goal, try not to do more. I would have eliminated that Olympic snatch workshop in retrospect, because what I had to do in terms of healing my shoulders during this big 12-week program for my ultimate goal of the powerlifting meet was I had to take a week and a half off of doing absolutely nothing in order to let my shoulders heal, for the rotator cuff muscles to be a little less inflamed. And then finally, when I got back into my training, I was already behind probably about 2 weeks. And that creates a whole nother kind of stress, knowing that, okay, I had this 12-week program. Now I'm 2 weeks behind. Where does that leave me? And as I said, during this time while I was having to go through this, a couple other teammates were also not only struggling to find time to do the workouts, but also working through some injuries. And injuries just happen, even with proper form. There's a reason why pro athletes get injured. You're doing something and it's inevitable that there might be an injury because of overuse, because some days you're tired when you're doing your training. So that's how it went along in terms of the physical part of the training. In terms of the emotional part of the training, what's been really nice about this 12-week process is that you start bonding with your teammates. And not having grown up playing any team sports, I was not as familiar with this feeling. But even though we are all powerlifting, which is a solo sport, since you're really competing against your own numbers, having other people along doing the same thing as you in terms of trying to find the time to fit it into their schedule, trying to get their lifts in, having the same mental struggles. Some days you don't feel like doing it. It really creates a feeling of sisterhood or brotherhood, because only this other person understands all the constraints and struggles that you're going through. Now, by the 11th week, which means 1 week out from our competition, this is the following feeling we all had. We were all tired of the process. Not one person was excited, just tired of the training for 11 weeks, devoting all our extra time into prepping for this powerlifting meet, just like lifting weights, trying to find the time during your day, rescheduling certain work things so you could fit your lift in. We were all tired. And I remember the quote of some people saying, like, I don't even care if we do this meet. And this is natural. We're so done. We were so done with the training. But what happened was on the day of the meet, which was yesterday, when you walk into that room where you're seeing dozens of other lifters who've also spent the last few months preparing, and you see all the stuff that they brought in, their big bags of water and food, thinking the same thing as you. I'm here. I've been lifting for the past 3 months plus, and I'm here to do my very best. It feels so great to be in a room full of electric energy of people who like to do the same thing as you and who've been preparing just as hard as you. And what I've learned from this process was, first of all, if you're interested in powerlifting, in this powerlifting environment, everybody is rooting for you. While it's a competition, it's not a competition because whatever number I'm starting with and whatever number I'd like to end up with in my bench press, back squat, and deadlift is different for each person. Also, in this sport, they divide you by age group and weight class. So, someone who's 500 pounds lifting weight is not going to be measured against someone who's 120 pounds because it's not fair. Of course, a bigger person's going to be able to lift more. And they also divide classes by age because someone who is 120 pounds but is 25 years old is going to have a much different performance or recovery than someone who's 55 years old but also weighs 120 pounds. So what makes powerlifting or solo sport like this wonderful is that it's such a supportive environment. Here, you're sharing this interest with all these other people who love doing what you do, and you're rooting for them. So, no matter who is on stage, you see the struggle, you know what they're fighting for as they're trying to attempt that lift, and you're yelling for them the same way that they're yelling for you to get that lift. The other thing I learned during the actual competition was that oftentimes we are our own self-limiting obstacle in terms of what we think we can do. So in a powerlifting meet, you get 3 attempts, not in a row, but after everyone gets their first attempt at a particular lift, then everyone goes for their second. Usually your first attempt is going to be a number that you can, a weight that you can do. The second one will be something you're like, ooh, this is probably this was last my 1 rep max. And then the third number is a number you're like, I'm going to go for it. And what I learned is I still underestimated what I could do. So in doing my third attempt and accomplishing it, I realized I could have gotten 5 pounds more. Even though there's also adrenaline helping push you through the process. But especially as women, we often think we can do less than we actually can do. And that physical strength mixed with adrenaline is very influenced by our thought process. I remember the very last lift I did, which is the third attempt at a deadlift, and the most I'd ever done in my life is 235. And I decided I'm going to go for 250. 235 felt really heavy during training during the work up till this before this day, but I'm going to go for 250, and 250 came up. I wouldn't say easy, but it was also not the kind of struggle where I almost didn't get it up. I think I could have probably added 5 more pounds on that. So our thought process and believing what we can do or what we want to do really does matter, especially on a day like the competition. You have to see it, believe it, and know it. And the last thing I want to part you with is that I highly recommend trying a competition, even if it's not a team sport, but something for yourself, just for the sheer life experience, to go through the process, to feel what it feels like to be challenged, to feel the adrenaline, and to set an expectation for yourself. At age 52, I'm really happy that I tried my first powerlifting meet.